welcome to Chit Chat with Jed & Co, the show where everyone has their say. Today we're here in Shimla Pinks Johnston to talk about the rise of Thorn Athletic. I'm delighted to have club chairman Mark McGee here. Mark, how you doing? Welcome to the show.
I'm very well, Jed. Good to be here.
Good. I can't believe we're sitting in Shimla Pinks. You were my van boy in the ice cream vans over 30 years ago, and that's what we look forward to most at night. Coming in here after the vans to have our pakora and our food. It was absolutely excellent, and here we are.
Hard to believe we're back here 30 years on now.
30 years, where's all the years gone, Mark? And now you're chairman of one of Scotland's most successful youth clubs. That is incredible.
Hard to believe, 3 decades later, involved in football. One of my passions, of course.
Exactly. Now, Thorn Athletic have become synonymous with Johnson over the past 20 years. Where did the idea come from, and is it true that it was came alive in the old Riley Snooker Club in Johnson?
Indeed it is, not very far from where we're sitting at the moment. In fact, straight across Houston Square there, the Riley Snooker Club was up above Woolies, which everybody will know. Yeah. And that's where I spent a lot of my time when I was younger. I was a cub reporter at the local paper, and I could disappear up to the Riley Snooker Club without anybody knowing. But my friend from Cock and Castle, me and Joe Smith, used to go in there every week, and we got friends with a few of his school pals and stuff, and the idea was born. Guys like Paul Young, David Elliott, James McKnight, Tommy Graham, boys like that, and before we know it, we had a football team on our hands.
Yeah, you definitely have. Now, why the name Thorn and not one of the more traditional? Because Johnson's famous for producing some great players, some great teams, Johnson United's, Peerless, all those kind of names. Why not one of the more traditional names? Why Thorn?
Well, as you outlined there, obviously, loads of great teams from Johnson, loads of great players as well, but we wanted really to kind of stand out for the crowd a wee bit. We didn't want to be judged on any of the teams that had went before us, and really it was a fresh start for everybody that was involved. And kind of ironically at the time, most of the boys that were involved all stayed within a few miles of the Thorn area, so we kept away from Johnston, but obviously everybody knows we're sort of bred in the town, of course, but we just, for a fresh start, something a bit unique, and as I said, we wanted our own brand new identity.
And my goodness, you've definitely created that over the last 20 years. Now, you were a young lad, Mark, when you started, I think 19, 20 years of age. Still looking good for your age, I must add. But, you know, I know that you as a young boy, you had that in you. You're a go-getter, but it must have had its challenges as a young lad. And who were the key figures that helped you along the way at the start of Thorn?
Well, very early on, I think I realised that it wasn't going to be possible to do it on my own, and that's when I called on some of the experienced guys, again, names that will probably ring a bell with you, Jed, guys that had been involved in the football scene in this area for many years, names like Jim Allen, Jim McKnight, Hughie McChrystal, Paul Elliott, Robert Robertson, and they'd been involved in, as I say, local teams for generations, and successfully, it has to be said. And me, with the age that I was at, being so close to the age of the players, there was always going to be those issues over respect and things like that. So first and foremost, getting us into the league was a challenge. A lot of people just never thought it was going to get off the ground. There was a lot of scepticism, quite rightly. The age group we were starting at, under 17, that's when boys, as you know, start to discover a lot of other things apart from football. So it was going to be really, really challenging, but as things went on, got guys like that involved, we settled down a wee bit, and really we managed to overcome a lot of the challenges, called in a lot of favours from my employers at the time for our first trip, and we used training facilities and where we are down at the academy at the moment. So once the first 6 months was out the road and we were established, that was us, but it wasn't without a lot of help for some of these guys.
It's good that you mentioned them, those guys, because they're fantastic people, and it's good that as a young lad starting out, they did give you the help, because it's like everything in life, especially at the moment. You can have the best stadiums in the world, you can have the best restaurants in the world, but if you don't have people,
that's it. Every good club these days is built on good people and volunteers, and it's not just on the coaching side. There's endless hours of work that get done behind the scenes, booking pitches, phoning referees. These days, running social media accounts, as you know, the red tape that's involved in the game. I mean, 20 years ago when we first started out, there was virtually no red tape. These days you're talking about forms for this, forms for that, PVGs, disclosures, coaching badges, all these types of things. So any good club these days need good volunteers, and I'm blessed with the amount of volunteers that I've got, good volunteers, people that are passionate about the Thorn in the same way that I am. And without them, we would be nothing. And as I say, the players as well. I mean, you need people to buy into it. So especially in the climate we live in at the moment as well, there's no money in local authorities. So if you want anything like good facilities and you want your team to be the best, the onus is really on us these days to take that on and bring our skills to the table. So volunteers are really the pillar of any good modern club.
Absolutely, it brings communities and it brings people together. Now, from my point of view, I'm lucky enough to go all over Europe and work with some of the world's top professional clubs. But I always make it a point when I'm out there to go and look at youth teams, especially in Holland and Spain and places like that. And I remember seeing a sign one day, and it says, "Before you complain, ask yourself this question: have you volunteered?" And
That's it. It's a massive.
It's easy to criticise and to complain, but have you put yourself?
We live in that type of culture these days where people do want to complain about things, but that's the very pertinent question. Have you done it? If you're asking somebody to do something, you've got to say to yourself, would I do that myself first? And without being too critical, parents, you know what parents are like. I don't have kids myself, but we have parents standing at a lot of the games and you think to yourself, they can be critical at times, it's their kid obviously, but sometimes you have to ask yourself, have they actually thought about volunteering? Yeah. Could they do the role of the coach? Could they fill the water bottles? Could they book the park? And most often than not, the answer's no. So really you have to hold these people in high regard, volunteers, because they are what every good club is built upon.
Now, as I said at the start of the interview, one of Scotland's most successful youth teams, but obviously it never came through hard work. When did the success start, and when was the realisation, probably from yourself, my goodness, we're onto something here?
I'm not going to lie, there was a lot of hard times at the beginning. We took a lot of heavy defeats. There was a lot of arguments, fights, fallouts, all the things you would expect. And there was tears as well, because a lot of the players that came at that time had come from other clubs that were successful, and they wanted that, of course, for the Thorn as well. And it was kind of hard to marry that together because we were still in our infancy. We were still really trying to find our feet. But they wanted to success almost straight away. And I think the first time it really dawned on me, Jed, was when we won a couple of cups in the Paisley District League against what would be recognised as kind of established teams at the time, Clarkston Boys Club. And that was really the first kind of watershed moment for us when we thought, here, we're not just in this for fun anymore, we can really go somewhere here. So we won 2 cup finals in at Seed Hill playing fields, and that was kind of the first sign that there was good things ahead. But probably the realisation that we'd actually arrived as a successful force was at under 21s. We're kind of last year at youth football. We won the West of Scotland Cup under 21s. We won a quadruple that year. We were actually named Team of the Year in this area as well. And at that point, we had really started to attract some of the top players. I mean, we always had all the best players in Johnson at that level playing for us, but at that point, we were starting to attract players from out with that. And indeed, that under-21 successful team went on to greater things because a lot of the players moved on to junior clubs and stuff like that. So it was recognised for the success. But as you say, it's hard to get to that point, and a lot of time you're just going through the motions. When you actually get some success, it's really, really rewarding.
And obviously, when you get success, it's how you build on it, I guess.
Definitely.
I noticed in 2018 you celebrated your 20th anniversary of Thorn Athletic. Now, that must have been an incredibly proud moment for everybody connected to the club, and especially yourself, Mark.
Well, it was probably a miracle for starters that we managed to get that far, and we survived, 2 decades. At the beginning, we were just one team. You never ever envisaged that something's going to last that long. I had it in my head that basically once that team had ran its course, that would be the end of the Thorn, and really that would be it knocked in the head. But we quickly obviously established some youth teams and stuff like that, and so to reach 20 years was a real milestone, and that weekend of celebration was just brilliant for everybody. It was great for me to see former players, former managers, their partners, current players coming together. We packed out Johnson Town Hall with 250 people. We had a live band. My family had travelled from down south and from Ireland. and everybody shared in what was just a great weekend. We had a match during the day with some of our legends who played against the current crop, and we had a few former managers taking the teams, and with the beer tent and that set up down at the academy, and the whole thing just ran like clockwork. We made presentations to some long-serving players and guys that had been there over the 2 decades, and just, the Johnstone Town Hall is a fantastic venue now. So really the whole thing was just spectacular. We had our badge projected onto the wall with lights and stuff like that. So it was great for me, and as I said, I never envisaged that we would ever reach that stage, but it was a real thing we'll look back on, and hopefully we'll also look forward to celebrating maybe the 25th and maybe one day the 50th. You never know.
Now, over those 20 years, I noticed that you have grown to over 350 members, but that's not only players, Mark. As we spoke about at the start of the interview, that's volunteers and everybody associated with the club. That's an awful lot of people.
It is, and a lot of that growth came really only in the last 7 or 8 years. We started off with really just one team for the bulk of that time, but in the last 7 or 8 years, the youth side of things has really exploded. We've up to 14 teams now. We've got everybody for the tiny kickers at the bottom level, right up to the adults. We've got the girls section, and we're always looking to start new things.
And again, what do you think the future holds? You're in a real firm footing, but what does the future hold for Thorn Athletic, Mark?
Well, during lockdown and really over the last 6 months, the club's had a lot of self-reflection. We've had a lot of more time in our hands with the football activities being cancelled for a large period of that time, and it's gave us an opportunity to step back and really assess where we are at the moment and to move things on. So one of the big aspects of that is when we were without football, we really took on more of a community role. So during lockdown, we were out delivering food parcels, fruit and veg, breakfast packs. We done our kick packs, so we gave 100 local kids a football markers, and we followed up with a kind of digital campaign of drills that they could follow on Facebook. So really we're looking at ways to really engage with the community more and grow that side of things. So we've always been a strong kind of community club, but now we're trying to focus on other stuff that's not just football related.
And it takes me on to my next point, Mark, perfectly. You recently opened the Thorn Athletic Sports Academy. What was the thinking behind this? That's a big step.
Well, anybody that knows the old McMaster Sports Centre in Johnstone will know that the Thorn was really born in that area, that West Johnstone area. So we've always been rooted in that kind of area of the town. And when the facility was closed, as it was the McMaster Centre kind of over 12, 15 years ago now, there was a real sense of frustration for us because we were no longer able to use it, but yet the pitch was still there. So back around 2010, along with a consortium of other sports clubs, we kind of got together and we got £200,000 from Big Lottery. And we reopened the facility, we fitted a brand new sports floor in the hall, we renovated the changing rooms, and basically we got it open again. And as I'd mentioned earlier, during lockdown, we got an opportunity to assess the situation there, and the club took full control of it and reopened it as Thorn Athletic Sports Academy. So now we're providing facilities for not only the Thorn players and coaches in the community, but we've got other community groups using us. So we've got things like after school care, we've got mother and toddler group, or children's parties once we're allowed again, and all these different things like Zumba and fitness classes. So we want to be providing far more than just football for the people of Johnstone. We want to be their go-to for their kids' party, for maybe blood transfusion, all these different things. It's a community space at the end of the day, and we want to try and utilise that in the best possible way. So the academy is going to be massive for us going forward, and it's really going to be a catalyst for the growth of the club. And
again, my point here is, what do you think makes the Thorn stand out?
I think the community side of things has been massive for us. The people that are involved in the club, a lot of them are Johnstone born and bred. Yeah. I think they realise also that we're putting a lot back in. It's very easy when you're a football club to always be looking for sponsorship and championing people's doors and asking them to give you support for things, and that's even more prevalent at the moment in the difficult financial times that we live in. But I think the one thing that we can say about the Thorn and what it's became synonymous with over the last 4 or 5 years is really what we've put back. So as I said, we're out there, we're engaging, we're in the schemes, we're in the schools, we're in the local community. We've got people doing work experience with us, we've got active schools leaders coming in. We've really tried to develop a dynamic where, as I said, it's not only football, and really we're a giving organisation and not only a taking in terms of what we're doing,
Incredible. Now, Mark, I'm going to put you on the spot. Okay? You knew I was going to do this anyway.
Of course, yeah.
You must have so many memories over the last 20 years. What is your beacon memory? You say, right, that I remember that. What's the best memory?
You're quite right. There's been so many over 20 odd years. You know, you remember obviously the successes. I mean, they're massive highlights, and when you're involved in this, it can be quite a lonely thing at times because it's, you know, there's not a lot of success that you get. So when you do actually achieve something, it does stick in your mind for years to come. And the one thing I think I would say is a moment that sticks out in my mind was reaching the West of Scotland Cup final at amateur level when we took the team to New Douglas Park in Hamilton, and the boys been in senior dressing rooms and stuff like that. We took 5 or 6 buses from the town to look up to the stand and to see your family and that cheering you on. And although we came up against a really good Drumchapel United team and we eventually lost in the night, it was still a momentous occasion for the club, and there was a real sense that we'd actually arrived. In fact, some of the people that were there and shared in that moment are unfortunately no longer with us, and I look back on the pictures with real fondness because it was when the team was really in its prime, you know. And of course there's been many bus trips and stuff like that to Oban, a lot of things that we can't mention, Jed, as you'll know yourself what happens in some of these bus runs. But I would have to say that was a real moment of joy, you know. And one of the other things that, just a small thing that I should mention as well, was really about 3 or 4 years ago, the captain of the amateur team, Ryan Crawford, get recognised with a Scotland cap, and he's went on to win 3 or 4 since then. So to see a Thorn team actually have somebody gaining recognition at international level, and he went to Slovenia on a 10-day tour and took part in the UEFA Regions Cup and representing the Thorn. So that was a real milestone for us as well, and again, a real kind of gold chip thing for the club to have, you know.
Finally, Mark, you've given us a fascinating interview, but what is your hope to be some sort of lasting legacy for Thorn Athletic in years to come?
Yeah, well, the fact that we're still here today, obviously, I never thought it's somewhat a miracle that we managed to survive this long. But on the football side of things, I hope that we've got enough young players involved in the club that will continue to grow and develop. And on the facility side of things, we're based in West Johnson. I feel that's an area that really needs hope and investment, and hopefully the development of facilities in that area. And I'm hoping that in the future we'll have something really tangible down there. We'll be able to put our mark in that area, hopefully develop and add to the existing facilities that we've already got there. And hopefully when these kids grow up 15, 20 years time, they'll be able to look back and say that's where it all started and look what we've got now.
Absolutely, Mark. It's been a fascinating interview. Thank you very much for your time today and telling us all about the rise of Thorn Athletic, and I'm sure it's going to be here for many, many more years. It's been an absolute pleasure. So that concludes our interview today for Chit Chat with Jed & Co, the show where everyone has their say. Thank you very much as well to Shimla Pinks for allowing us to do the interview here. And again, Mark, thank you, and wishing everybody a very Merry Christmas.